This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
This week on Off the Record, 33 murders in 93 days. That's 3 times more than this time last year. Charlotte police talk about why. Well, it was Congressman Robin Hayes and Republican Chairman Robin Hayes. Now he's defendant Robin Hayes, facing corruption charges. More millions for affordable housing in Charlotte, but not from the taxpayers. We'll talk about the local banks chipping in. The state orders a coal ash cleanup at all Duke Energy power plants, including one rated the second worst contaminated site in the country. And the timetable to extend Charlotte's trolley line off the rails again. What's to blame this time? Off the Record's next on PBS Charlotte. I'm Jeff Sonyer. This is Off the Record, where we talk about the stories you've been talking about this week. And if you watch the news, read the news, or listen to the news, you'll recognize the names and faces around our table. Jonathan Lowe from Spectrum News Charlotte and Mark Becker from WSOC TV. Thanks for being here. Also, Mark Garrison from WBT Radio and Ashley Fahey from the Charlotte Business Journal. Thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us at home as well. You can join our conversation. Just email your questions, comments, and unwanted Joe Biden hugs to offtherecord at WTVI.org. Let's talk first. Let's talk first about politics, since you mentioned Joe Biden. Why not? Congressman Robin Hayes, the central figure, or one of the central figures, in what apparently was a sting operation pulled off by the FBI involving Raleigh officials, GOP top officials, and a big donor. And Mark, I know that you talked with the insurance commissioner, who is a central figure in this. Can you kind of bring us up to speed on where we are there?
This is a fascinating story. You have the insurance commissioner for the state of North Carolina wearing a wire and going undercover for the FBI. Because of questions about the dealings of a businessman named Greg Lindberg. And then all of a sudden this escalated with money. Lindberg in one conversation says to him, "I'll make you the most successful insurance commissioner in history."
Successful meaning?
I'm going to set you up with about $2 million in a campaign fund. That was part of it, yeah. And Robin Hayes got caught up in this because some of the money was going to be funneled through the Republican Party. And the biggest thing that Hayes is being tagged for in the indictment is lying to the FBI. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting, in talking to Mike Causey, the insurance commissioner, he's a very down-to-earth guy, and he didn't want to talk a whole lot about some of the specifics, but he said, "I have enough here to write a book." Mm-hmm. And you think about that, you're elected to office, and not less than a year after your election, you're being talked to by the FBI and coached on how to be a spy.
One thing that I thought was interesting, we talked to Mike Causey as well, and in the interview, he was clear to say that he cooperated fully with the FBI on this, and when he was elected, this was one of the first things that was put on his plate. So this played out over a long time. And mentioned he's a Republican as well.
That's exactly right. And and look, the reason the Democrats have been quiet about this in many ways is because the former insurance commissioner, a Democrat, there's some real questionable dealings between him when he was the insurance commissioner and this businessman, Lindberg. And so you're right, it landed in Causey's lap, and he was contacting the FBI early on because he smelled some things that didn't look right.
Okay, so I don't know Mike Causey. I haven't spoken with him, but that speaks to how clear we all have this sort of gut, right, sense of when something's wrong and something's right. Here's a guy who's elected, just gets elected, and he says, "You know what? Something doesn't feel right about this." And how many other politicians, political leaders, have sort of looked the other way and probably
it does make
told people, I had no idea. Well, it doesn't take rocket science, or a deep thinker, or a veteran politician to figure out
reminds you of the 9th District investigation, to your point, because that, how long was that going on before 2018 happened?
And Pat McCrory
and a lot of people were turning a blind eye to it.
Right. Former Governor Pat McCrory said in 2016 he raised his hand on that one. So the point here is, back to the issue of the day, of the week, is that, he smelled something was wrong, and he did the right thing. And we need more of that. Yeah. Republican, Democrat votes.
And there's a little bit of coincidence about that, too, because as he was smelling the wrong thing, if you will, he went to a seminar that was put on by the Justice Department on some insurance issues. And one of the FBI guys there said, if you ever have any questions or concerns about something, feel free to talk to us. And he was like, I need to talk to you.
Well, there you go. A couple of things that stand out about this. It kind of opens the, I mean, these are all accusations. Nothing's been proven yet, and everyone will have their day in court, and more indictments may be coming involving more people. We just don't know yet. But it does kind of open the door and gives us all a view on how business is done sometimes in this state. If you've got a problem, there's a lot of ways to make it go away, and one of them is to, you know, spend a lot of money as an industry, as a company CEO, with the right candidate. I don't know that everybody, you know, who votes realizes how much on a much higher level a lot of these characters, a lot of these players are playing.
And how much money is being traded behind the scenes, because, you know, one of the first things I did when the Robin Hayes thing broke was go to the FEC website, which any American can do, any voter, anybody can go there, and all you need to do is very easy. They make it, you know, searching, just enter a person's name, a contributor, a donor, you know, a recipient. And this Lindbergh guy just had donation after donation, and it wasn't just to Republicans; it was to Democrats. You know, PAC, political action committees. I mean, it was across the board. But you realize how much money is traded just over somebody wanting to have more influence.
And I get a sense maybe that's why we haven't heard much from the Democrats on this, because they've been the recipients of some of this campaign donation as well. And you also get the sense that Causey may have felt initially that he was cleaning up the mess that his Democratic predecessor left behind, and suddenly it's his own party that's at the center of it also.
And it's important to note, too, that the reason the FBI wanted Causey to wear a wire and get as much on tape as possible is because the Supreme Court has held that if I give you a campaign contribution and I express some things I'd like to see done, that's not a bribe. It's only a bribe when I say, hey, I'm going to give you some money, Mark Becker, and here's what I expect for it. And so to make the case now, the feds are they've got to have a lot more evidence to tie it up.
It's real old school.
That's exactly right.
Using a wire.
And so that's why they had to get as much on tape as possible.
Talk about big money in public television. It just seems, I'm not sure how this all works. Another conversation.
How much do you want?
Yeah, exactly.
Got him coming, Jeff.
Hey, let's talk about businesses doing the right thing, shall we? This week we heard from some of the local banks stepping forward to be a partner with the city when it comes to providing affordable housing. They don't have to do this, but they do it out of, I guess, some self-interest, but I guess the broader, you know, the goodwill they gather from the community and just doing the right thing for City Hall. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, Michael Marsicano at the foundation's been very aggressive. You know, he set this goal last year and said, I am going to get $50 million in straight donations and get out into the community and say, you business leaders, we need to step forward and commit. What's interesting is that the banks that have contributed, and that's BB&T, SunTrust this week, and previously Bank of America, Ally, and Barings, a lot of what they're contributing is below market debt.
Yeah, low income loans, basically, or low interest loans.
Right, exactly, which is a little bit different than obviously just writing a check and saying this is going to affordable housing. Now, of course, part of that is going into the fund, which LISC, which is Local Initiative Support. Sorry.
Yes, I don't know it either.
I can't get it. Local Initiative Support
later,
Corporation. And they're the ones who are supposed to be managing how these monies, whether it's the public side or the private sector, get distributed and funded for units. Now, of course, the banks will manage their debt and allocate that to developers. But you know, this is a win, even if it is, you know, not just a straight up donation, because developers often say, you know, we need as much financing tools as we can get.
And the city has said when they got their $50 million in bond money from voters for affordable housing, they said this isn't enough.
Right.
We need more, and this is an example of the bank stepping up and matching a lot of those funds to provide some real money that can address a real problem.
Yeah, and I think we're also in an environment too where, you know, there's so much pressure and so much discussion, as there should be, on things like affordable housing and equity issues, and that the banking community, the private sector, you know, they see this and they're like, well, to be part of this, we need to make a statement. We need to make a bold statement. And again, Marsicano has been very aggressive on that front.
And yet, you know, for all this for all the good we like to talk about here, eviction rates are still very high.
Right.
And people who are in desperate need of a place to live or some help, they don't know where to turn. And so I don't think we've figured out how to turn this from a bureaucracy and a happy press release into a program yet that's really helping.
Yeah, how do you deliver the goodwill that's being provided by the city and the banks to the people who need it most?
I mean, the city is, with this affordable housing thing, they will tell you it's not a one-size-fits-all, and they are still figuring this out, because it's not just the rent part of it. It's the public land that's being gobbled up by investors that the city and county is they're competing with. There's also, we already have this stock of naturally occurring affordable housing. Do we buy all that up? So they're still figuring all of that out.
But I think, and again, my friend Mark and I could probably give perspective, as you, Jeff, as well. Affordable housing wasn't even a discussion topic 10 years ago.
No, that's right.
And maybe even 5 years ago. So the fact that we are now discussing it, and there are corporations and the banks, I think, doing this, certainly with good intent, and at the same time, they're getting along. We're talking about it, right? So it's a win-win, I guess. But the fact that it's on the table now is a good start. You just got to keep the momentum going.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, the good start aspect of it. And again, though, there's still a lot of questions with council over LISC and what their role is. Seems like council isn't quite totally on board with what's going to go on yet. They still have questions about what kind of involvement they're going to have, how these funds are going to get distributed. So there's still a ton that needs to be worked out.
Last quick comment. Back in the day, you talked about perspective. The banks were very involved in things like economic development in the 80s and the 90s. It's kind of a throwback to those days, it seems to me, except the problem is different now. It's addressing affordable housing versus building uptown, but it's not just Bank of America anymore, but you see some of these new players, the newly combined BB&T and SunTrust. I mean, it does kind of feel like old Charlotte in some way. The banks going hand in hand with the mayor and the city council and trying to solve a problem that's in everyone's best interest.
Well, to Mark's point, and correct me if I'm wrong, when I was growing up, it felt like the Charlotte Housing Authority was doing a lot more with actual affordable housing developments, and then those
they were
sort of the only game in town.
Scattered site housing projects, and they were, and we had a lot of Section 8 housing as well. But those places have been redeveloped. I mean, Earl Village and what is now
Southside Homes,
First Ward, Southside Homes. You had Piedmont Courts, right over there, and that's Siegel Point now, I guess. But it's all been redeveloped. So all those people had to go somewhere, and I remember interviewing people years ago saying, "Well, where are we going to go?" Yeah. And obviously they've moved, but we're sort of now recognizing we need to find other ways.
And there's been such dramatic changes with HUD. The federal how it gets funded at the federal level has changed dramatically. Not only is there not nearly as many funds as there needs to be, but the types of projects that HUD will fund today are very different than what they were in the 80s and the 90s when you had public housing, when you had a high-rise with just low-income units. Now today they're all about mixed income and all these other things, but and there's just not nearly enough money to go around.
Yeah, Mayor Vilisle said the thing that she was proudest of her first year in office was getting the cooperation from the private banks to chip in on the whole affordable housing thing. I guess the mayor's own perhaps connections or long history at City Hall maybe helps move this ball along as well. But regardless, it's good to see everybody kind of recognizing the problem and all doing what they can, to at least begin the process of not just paying for it, but delivering that.
But I think one key role the media is going to play here is how do we transition this from concept and commitment to really making a difference.
It's a subject we talk about almost every week here. And it's not going away anytime soon. So, it's troubling news from the police department this week, talking about not just the crime rate, but the violent crime rate, and in particular the homicide rate. I mean, it's the numbers we're not quite on a record-setting pace yet, but we're way past where we should be and way past where we were last year. Mark, it's not a good time in some neighborhoods when it comes to the violent crime.
Well, and I think we saw one of those about a week ago, where a young woman was on her way to nursing school in the evening. She has 2 young children, driving at 28th and Tryon, gets into the middle of a shootout and is killed. And every once in a while there's a case that little boy who was shot at a birthday party several years ago. They just gets this community by the gut and says, we got a problem. And that was one of those. Now, there were 32 others, and now since then there have been a couple more, so up to 34, 35. But police said the other day, the chief said, it's not the numbers that matter, it's what's going on. And a lot of times there are a couple of factors. One is people getting into arguments and ending them with gunfire, just stupid stuff. And the other is that a lot of people, and the chief said, a lot of young people get shot or are victims of crime or witnesses to crime, and they don't work with police. And guess what happens a week later?
They settle it
there's
themselves.
Retribution. And he was clearly frustrated when he was talking about that.
Well, you
problem.
talk about stupid. 2 weeks ago at Concord Mills.
I thought you were talking about me.
No, never. No. 2 weeks ago at Concord Mills, the guy is in a seat. Another guy doesn't like the fact that he's in his seat. He shoots him in the theater.
Well, I
and
did
that's
speak
exactly
of that.
what the chief's talking about.
And in that case, the appearances were everything, because before I sat down and interviewed the victim of that shooting, you think you were a couple of young guys who got into an argument over whatever, a woman or whatever, and shooting. No. It was, first of all, assigned seats. Who knew? You ever been to an assigned seat in a theater?
Yeah.
I have not. But so he walked into the theater with his mother to watch this popular movie, and there was a young man in his seat, 18 years old, we find out. And he just said, excuse me, you're in our seats. And he said nothing to antagonize the guy, except, I'll go get an usher, and, we'll settle this. And the kid, 18 years old, as he walks out, feels I can't be distant, shoots him. So yes, availability of guns to an 18-year-old, the lack of other kinds of resolution to what is really, not a big deal.
Right.
Those things surfaced in that.
Well, right now we're triple where we were last year when it comes to the homicide rate. And a couple of years ago, you'll remember, we had 100 homicides plus in this town. And if I recall, most of that was kind of drug-related, gang-related type violence. This feels different.
Well, they kind of broke it down, and I don't know the numbers. There's obviously, sadly, a number of domestic cases, right? There were some cases where you had young people just shooting over stupid stuff. There was certainly some drug involvement. But again, I think what's happening here is that, and the chief was talking about people just not resolving issues and not working with police, not trusting police to preempt these things.
Right.
And
That sounds like a bigger problem than the police can solve.
well, I think there's that's exactly what he said. We need the community to be involved. We need education. It doesn't work in the classroom, right? We've had a shooting in a class.
Well,
So-
to Mark's point, I just really hope that, the shooting of the senseless shooting of Kendall Crank.
She's the
it's
mom
now
who was
federal-
driving home when she...
Right, it's now a federal case. Not a federal case. It's the state DOJ has taken over. Why? Because a assistant district attorney from Mecklenburg County, because this happened during rush hour, their car was struck by a bullet.
Their car was even struck. I mean,
and so now they are not only a witness, but a victim. And so the state takes over. And I just wish that the young people in this community who are settling these issues with will look at this and realize that these three kids, one of them was crying in court.
One of them was 17 years old.
And correct.
But I'm talking about the suspects. They're kids too.
Three
one
suspects
of them
with 22, 17, and I think 24.
And this mom left behind 3 kids as well.
Right.
Young kids.
It's just, I really hope that to Mark's point, looks at this and all of its senselessness, and these 3 kids, these 3 black males have now ruined their lives, basically, assuming they are the shooters. It's it leaves you just, I just don't understand. I don't get it.
Well, and I interviewed the stepfather of the young woman who was killed, but I also interviewed the step grandfather of the 17-year-old as he was leaving court, and he just shook his head. He said, "There are no winners here." He said, "We've got to do better.
Right.
We've got to come up with a plan." I mean, it was poignent.
And we cannot be just commenting on and getting all enraged when it involves the police.
I'm afraid the young folks who are, in the middle of this, and many of them teenagers, may not be watching us tonight, but I think we all need to find other ways to disseminate that.
You got to find a way to reach the people who are causing the problem, who are the middle of this problem. And once we find that, if we find that, then maybe something meaningful can happen. In the meantime, again, this seems like a bigger problem than the police or any one, part of our society can solve. It's got to be a joint effort, I suppose. Duke Power on the hook now for cleaning out all of its coal ash bins in the Charlotte area, statewide, I guess. They were looking at plans to excavate some of this contaminated ash, leave some of it behind, but they don't have that option anymore, not after what the state determined this week. Can we talk a little bit about what that means for Duke ratepayers, and also what it means for the folks who have lived with these coal ash ponds and this coal ash problem for a long, long time?
Well, yeah, Duke Energy has already said this could be a $5 billion thing, that it's going to cost a substantial amount of money to clean up everything. And I guess the big question that I'm sure everyone's wondering is, how is this going to impact customers?
Right.
Inevitably, I think Duke Energy is going to look for avenues to pay for it, and the most obvious thing is, well, we got to do rate hikes with customers. And I think, again, we've seen this before, how the customers react to that and what the ruling will be on that, of course, is to be determined. But they've already said this is going to be a substantial amount of money, and it's going to take a lot of time to do this.
Yeah, coal ash is the byproduct of their generations of generating power, for
That's
all
right.
of those customers. So you can kind of see their point of view. This is part of what we did for many years, and what we still have to deal with today.
They've maintained over the years, and I'm not a scientist, that their system of dealing with the coal ash has been safe. So, I don't think they're changing their mind on that.
Well, there's a lot of questions about that. I mean, we've known for some time now, and Duke has known for some time, that coal ash is a witch's brew of all sorts of toxins. And Duke's PR machine has continually said, oh, it's not toxic. Well, we know better than that now. Even the research group EPRI that Duke funds calls coal ash toxic. And I'll tell you what is the untold story here of coal ash, and I have felt this for some years. It's not just those piles that are in place at the plants. It's the coal ash that is buried under homes and businesses all through this region. Because for years coal ash was unregulated, and Duke sold it essentially as fill dirt. I never will forget, in 2012, when I first started reporting on this down at the Allen plant, which is the plant you alluded to where wells are contaminated. It's terrible.
Second worst contamination for coal ash in the country, according to one study that just came out a month ago.
I had an old guy say, "Get in my pickup." And I said, "Okay, where are we going?"
I saw that movie.
Yeah, I was starting to worry. But he took me to all these neighborhoods, and he said, every one of these houses with their wells, it's built on coal ash. And Duke doesn't dispute that because they just sold it. They didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Well, now, and we now know virtually the whole town of Mooresville is built on coal ash. And Duke University is doing a lot of research looking at why there's so much thyroid cancer in Mooresville. And they're starting to really suspect that there's radioactivity from the soil on it. So the last chapter in this story hasn't been written, and but to your point too, it's going to cost ratepayers a lot of money.
So the last time they asked though for a rate hike, Duke didn't get as much as they wanted, correct?
That's right.
Because and they were trying to use some of that to. So hopefully the Utilities Commission will.
Yeah, and that's the big unknown, I think. But with it, if it's truly a $5 billion issue, and I know that's the number that Duke Energy has put out, it's going to be expensive. And I think that inevitably they're going to ask for whatever number they want. Whether they'll get that, whether they get some of that.
Yeah, and by the way, the legislature also getting involved. State legislator Nassif Majid, former city council member here, one of the sponsors of a bill that would prevent Duke Power or any utility from charging their ratepayers for the cleanup of coal ash ponds. I don't know how that bill will proceed through the legislature, how many friends either side of this debate have, when it comes to the vote. But obviously the legislature and the lawmakers are feeling both sides of this. Duke Power, obviously a huge corporate citizen in this state, and everybody pays, power bills.
Yeah.
We're all affected. Last couple of minutes, I want to talk quickly about cats, although you could probably do a whole show on some of what cats has been dealing with recently. The streetcar, which has been delayed, off again, on again, the bridge that they keep having to rebuild, another delay, another couple of delays that are going to push the project back even farther. Who wants to take a swipe at this?
I think we can all have something to add.
We got a couple years to work on this.
You know, to the trolley or the streetcar,
Yeah.
Looking at it being now 6 months later
6
on
months
its
more,
opening,
yeah.
I think there are 3 delays that we're talking about. The platform raising,
Yeah.
the RNC, which we just learned about this week because they have to shut down
4
all
months.
of
4 months of 3 months of shutdown for the RNC. 6 months of shutdown to raise the platform for the new rail cars
Right.
and the bridge that they can't
And by
get
the
right
way, the
over
steel girders don't
the
fit.
Hawthorne
Right.
Street Bridge that
Right.
they can't get right.
And we don't yet know how long
That could
is
be.
left on Hawthorne Lane Bridge, which,
Right.
if you live on the Plaza Midwood side or the Elizabeth side, you know, I just feel for people that live and work over there because
That used to be
it
me.
is-
I used to live over there.
so you
It's a-
know,
it's
I
a
mean,
mess,
it's
yeah.
horrible, and it's
Yeah.
been, you know, they initially were told it would be about a year, correct? And we're now in year 2.
Why are we
Yeah.
even still dealing with a contractor who apparently can't even do basic math and measurements? I mean, there's just something bizarre.
Well, then it makes you
it
wonder what else is going to come up. you
Yeah.
know? What other
Yeah.
issues are going to possibly
Doesn't give you a lot of
arise.
confidence
Yeah.
in the way they spend the money or the way they manage the money they're spending, I suppose. But and again, as they go forward with big plans for an expansion of the whole system, I guess that's another issue for another day, but something that they're going to have to deal with in the future, justifying the new expenditures while trying to defend the way they've managed the old project.
And there's a whole other phase 3
Yeah.
of the
Going out to
streetcar
Eastland.
that hasn't been funded yet.
Yeah. Well,
They haven't even started on it. So
Just like the blue,
you know,
the light rail.
right. So we're talking about Silver Line, which the number that's floating out there is $8 billion. You know, they're going to have to go to taxpayers for a tax hike.
yeah.
But phase 3 is not funded.
Yeah,
It's
well, we
just-
got to keep the trains running on time here, too. We're out of time this
off
week,
the
but I
rails.
appreciate you all being here this week. Thank you for joining us this week as well. Remember, you can always join our conversation at Off the Record at WTVI.org. We'll see you next time right here on Off the Record.
A production of PBS Charlotte.